So for my first synth patch, I used FM synthesis or frequency modulation synthesis using FM8. Put simply, frequency modulation occurs when the frequency of an oscillator is modulated by another oscillator. In FM synthesis, any oscillator which is modulating another is known as the modulator, and any modulator we hear is known as the carrier. I'll start with the F operator and change the oscillator to a sawtooth. By changing the ratio by whole numbers, I can change the pitch of the operator by each successive harmonic in the harmonic series. I'll keep it at a ratio of 2 here. In each operator we can edit the amp envelope, and in this instance I'm going to slow the attack down slightly and have a curved decay. In FM synthesis, if the operator is a carrier, then the envelope affects the volume, but if the operator is a modulator, then the envelope affects the timbre of the carrier sound. I'm now going to add another operator to modulate operator F. I'm going to select a square wave on operator D, and as I drag up the amount, you'll notice how the carrier sound changes. I'm then going to edit D's amp envelope until I get a sound that I'm happy with. Now using operator E, I'm going to create another carrier which D will also modulate. I'll use a simple sine wave and drag up the signal amount in the output matrix until I'm happy with the sound. By layering up these operators, I can get a much richer harmonic sound than I could using just one. Now I'm going to route another modulator into operator D using operator C. I'll also make this a square wave and slow down the attack slightly and drag up the signal amount into operator D. For my final carrier, I'll select operator B, keep it on sine wave and change the ratio to 2. And I'll turn up the signal in the output matrix so you can hear it. Again, I'll edit the amp envelope till I'm happy with the sound, and we'll modulate it using operator A. I'll turn the ratio up to 3 and keep the envelope how it is. Now I just have to adjust the signal amounts until I'm happy with the sound. If we now go into the master section, I can affect the amount of voices to get a richer sound. I'll put it up to 8. I'm also going to add some effects by clicking on the effects icon and selecting a tube amp, flanger and chorus. To finish my sound off, I'm going to send it to a ping pong delay return track in Ableton. For my second synth patch, I'll be using the basic principles of subtractive synthesis to create a bass sound, as well as using wavetable synthesis to morph the sound over time. Subtractive synthesis is essentially a 3-stage process involving the same 3 properties which define a sound: the tone generator, which is the oscillator, tone shaper, which is the filter, and volume shaper, which is the amplifier. In Massive, we also have the ability to use wavetable synthesis. We can click on the drop-down menu in the oscillator section to reveal various types of wavetables. I'm going to select sine square. I'll drag the pitch down by 1 octave to get a lower tone, and if I adjust the wavetable position, you can hear how the wave morphs between a sine and a square wave. By assigning an LFO to the wavetable position, I can get the wavetable position to morph over time. I'll sync the LFO to the global tempo of Ableton and select a ratio of 1.2. Now I'm going to modulate the timbre of sound over time using envelopes. These envelopes can be applied to volume, filter cutoff and oscillator pitch. So I'll select low pass 4 in my filter section and move the cutoff until I'm happy with the sound. Now I can adjust an envelope and assign it to the filter. I'll also add an LFO to the filter cutoff. Now I'm going to add a second and third oscillator. I'll select Chrome, drag the pitch down to -12, and drag the output signal up so that it's only going through filter 1. I can assign a separate envelope to the wavetable position and edit the settings till I like what I hear. For the third oscillator, I'm going to select sine square again, this time dragging the pitch down 2 octaves to -24. Again, I'll assign an LFO to the wavetable position, editing the settings until I like what I hear. I'm also going to send this oscillator into another filter, which we can select here. I'll modulate this filter cutoff with envelope 2. I'm now going to thicken up the sound by applying some chorus, delay and EQ to the sound using the effects section. Now I'm going to drag the modulation oscillator up to 24 and drag up the ring modulation. To get a dirty drive sound and complete the patch, I use an insert of a sine shaper and push the drive up. And now to finish off the sound, I'm just going to send this to a delay return in Ableton like I did with the FM synth. For my final synth, I'm going to use granular synthesis in Absynth to create my sound. Granular synthesis is based on the same principle as sampling, but the samples are not played back conventionally. They're instead split into small pieces known as grains. I'll start by loading my sample into the Oscillator 1 menu. If I click on the drop-down menu and select Granular, a new option to load a file appears. I'll select my file, and now it's ready for me to modulate and edit using Absynth's filters. After tweaking the mod parameters, I'm now going to add an all-pass filter and tweak the hertz and feedback parameters until I create a dark atmospheric sound. I'm now going to add another filter, this time a notch, and drag the transposition down to -12. In the master section, I'm now going to select a wave shaper to add a bit more texture to the sound, as well as a final all-pass filter, and I'll just tweak the hertz parameters. To finish my sound off, I'm going to select effects and then echoes, and edit the dry and wet parameters until I have my final sound.